So this was the questions from the Q&A part of the session. These questions were pre-submitted as part of the registration process, and obviously it enabled me to then make sure that the content that I had in the presentation answered some of these questions ideally. So hopefully we've kind of went through it, and I'll run through this kind of how I did in the live presentation. So exercise and not feel exhausted or not feeling dizzy afterwards, again, that comes down to fueling our body for performance, ensuring that we've got, the right macro and micronutrients on board to have a real strong training session. So I know that, some people can go not eating before a training session. For some people it's easy, and they can train fasted, and there's no problem with that. Some people, through whatever mechanism, be it genetic or otherwise, they maybe go a little bit hypoglycemic, a little bit low blood sugar, and they start to get those dizziness spells there. So I've had clients, just try some sort of pre-workout nutrition or some intra-workout nutrition. So like it could be something like a Powerade, just a bit of carbs, or like a protein shake and some carbs or whatever, protein shake and a banana before training, or some a Powerade and essential amino acids, or a protein drink with some carbohydrates in it, some fast digesting carbohydrates in it during a training session. Try that out. If that makes improvements, then you could probably attest those dizziness spells to being hypoglycemic. You could also skin prick yourself and see what your blood sugar levels are at during a training session when you're feeling these symptoms. Or you should go to a doctor and get this. Well, you should probably go to a doctor anyway and get this, speak to them about it. But that's maybe some things that I would look at in terms of practical strategies there. Learning about macros, meal prep, food ideas, snacks. Yeah, I think this was kind of covered. I think this question was more looking towards specifics about uh, meals and all the rest of it. I have given, the BBC Good Food as a kind of good place to start looking. So that could be an option there. Improve knowledge about nutrition. Hopefully that box has been ticked. Nutrition to beat exhaustion and afternoon sugar cravings. Again, how much of you know micronutrients as well, making sure we're getting enough of those cofactors in to support energy and metabolism. And then crowding, sometimes you can crowd out the bad stuff with the good stuff. So how much good stuff do we need to put in? Like how big do the meals need to be? How much more fruit and vegetables do we need to get into your main meals in order to offset those sugar cravings? Like, can we just increase the volume there until you feel like those cravings dissipate because you've actually, consumed enough food that you feel full, and you don't have those sugar cravings. That's something that I've found particularly helpful, especially during the dieting phase. Like I said before, my dieting phase is my gross weight of meals actually increases. So I consume less calories, but I have a higher volume of food because I just smash a ton of veggies in, and that helps me feel like I'm not dieting. It helps me to fill up on fibre, and it helps me to get the micronutrients in there to support the system as a whole. Uh, Diet, I don't eat enough for weights. I think that was covered. Fat loss, more energy, curb cravings. I think we've been through that one. Muscle improving and gain, again, that's been covered. Assistive diet and foods and not feeling tired. Again, nutrition plays a role there, but we need to look at everything that we're tracking. So how's our sleep? How's our stress management? How's our training? Is our training efficient, or are we going in and potentially doing too much, or is it a lot of you know stuff? The way I see people training is they're there and they're in the gym and they're spending a lot of time and they're doing a lot of stuff, but it doesn't look like it has the real intensity to generate a change in your physique, but there's enough of it to stimulate a decent amount of fatigue. So for some people, peeling it back a little bit and being a little bit more, well, let's do less, but let's bring the intensity with it and figure out what is the least amount we can do to get a stimulus, or to get the body to adapt and to change. And then that's, because if we figure out what's the least that we can do, we always know that we can add more. And it's a much easier conversation to go, all right, like we could maybe increase the intensity or increase the overall volume potentially a little bit here. It's a harder conversation to have with people, to tell them to pull back, to you know to take a little bit back from their training, and tell them that actually to get further you need to do less. Like, in terms of a belief shifting there for people can be difficult. So I always look through the viewpoint of trying to get the most from the least, and this is something that I got from Joe Bennett, who's the hypertrophy coach. You'll see him on Instagram. He's a pretty well known and well respected trainer and coach. So I've taken a lot of stuff from him, and that was one of the main ones. Tips and tricks. Yeah, I think we've been through that. Improved nutrition and weight loss during menopause. Again, we touched on things like osteoporosis and fatigue, which is two things that we see during menopause. So then, therefore, the micronutrition becomes especially important. Menopause as well, you want to be focusing obviously on getting strong. We want to remember that this decrease in basal metabolic rate that we kind of see in menopause is due to, a lot of the time, a loss in muscle mass, and therefore the reduction in lean mass equals a reduction in basal metabolic rate, and therefore the energy that you burn at rest. And then therefore, if you eat 1,200 calories and that was your maintenance at 35, and then you eat 1,200 calories and that was your maintenance at 40, then 1,000 calories might be your maintenance. I'm just pulling these numbers out of the sky, but so then you're eating 200 calories over your maintenance now, because you haven't focused on building enough muscle, and your body is losing muscle mass as you get older, as it naturally happens to us all. So focusing on getting stronger, focusing on trying to build some lean muscle, probably speaking to a specialist and HRT, or just getting awareness around that. Even somebody who's a specialist in female hormone optimization. I think these people are probably worth their weight in gold. The podcast and the people that I've listened to it, and the kind of success stories that I've heard people have, it would be, in terms of improving people's quality of life, it's definitely worth a conversation, even if it's just looking at it from a supplemental point of view or whatever it is. But an expert in this field, if it was me, if it was my mum, or if it was my wife or my sister or whatever, that's the path I'd be telling them to go down. A variety of meals that are easy to prep from common ingredients, reasonably priced. I mean, I'm not too sure if we've covered that, but it's probably outside the scope of what we're doing today. But there's going to be another workshop coming that's probably going to cover more of that stuff. And then finally, what we need to do to retain muscle and lose body fat. So that should have been covered as well. Hopefully, everything has been, all these boxes been ticked. The information has been comprehensive. It's been broken up into less than 10-minute videos, so it's a little bit more digestible. It's on YouTube, so you can watch it at 1.5 speed. But good luck trying to understand me at 1.5 speed. But hopefully that everyone has got something from this series of videos and this workshop, and I'll continue to put out this kind of information, the actionable steps, the stuff that's going to be able to help people realise their potential and ultimately achieve what they want to achieve.